The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. We'll talk all things Hokie wrestling with Coach Tony Robie and staff. Now, let's join your host, Hall of Fame wrestling writer and broadcaster, Jason Bryant.
Oh, it's that beautiful time of year. The snow is starting to melt if you've got snow on the ground, unless you get a foot of it like we did up here in Minnesota just yesterday as we started spring break. But it's that time. It's wrestling season coming to a close. ACC Championships wrapped up. The NCAA Championships are looming. This is Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. My name is Jason Bryant. Joining us today, head wrestling coach of your Virginia Tech Wrestling Hokies, the ACC champion Virginia Tech Hokies, Tony Robie. Coach, congratulations on that title.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, that sounded good. We obviously are very excited to be able to put another trophy in the trophy case and bring another ACC title back to Blacksburg. So it was a fantastic effort by everybody involved, and I'm sure we'll dig pretty deep into that. But yeah, it's great to talk to you again. I'm excited for the NCAAs. I know you're preparing diligently for your duties and responsibilities out there, just like we are. So I hope things are well.
And just let it be noted that I pretty much put all the shows that I produce personally on hiatus until, with the exception of this one, because you're like, hey, podcast tomorrow. Like, yeah, we're doing it. Because I got to save these pipes, man. I was at the NAIAs. I've got the Division IIIs. And then, it's that contest. The first prize a week in Cleveland, second prize 2 weeks in Cleveland. I get to spend 2 weeks in Cleveland, 2 weekends in Cleveland, because I've got Division III and then Division I. So I got to make sure no extra karaoke, no extra trips to ye old pub between now and then. It's just got to make sure, got to low the voice and soothe it. A lot of honey, a lot of tea. I think I'll be good.
You're a professional, so I've got no doubt you'll be prepared. Your discipline is on point, right?
I like to say that my wife may beg to differ with my priorities, especially since I got two kids under 6 upstairs. But as we look forward to the NCAA championships, at-large selections came out on Tuesday, giving the Hokies a full allotment of 9 wrestlers, 8 of which qualified through the conference tournament, and edging NC State, kind of avenging the dual meet loss down there in Raleigh. They've had a good fan base this year. Of course, the Hokies setting all sorts of records when it comes to the fan base here in Blacksburg.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to personally thank everybody from the Hokie Nation that's supported us, not only in Chapel Hill this week at the ACC Championships. I don't know what the numbers were, but I know we had the most fans in the building, and I don't really think it was that close, and we were by no means the closest school. And just throughout the course of this year, we set an attendance record with the most fans to watch wrestling in Blacksburg. This year, we averaged close to 2,000 fans per match. So the support has been really unmatched, and has been as good as it has been since I arrived here in 2006. Our support for the Southeast Regional Training Center, both in dollars and in donors, is at the highest level it's ever been. So I just want to say a sincere thank you to everybody who's supported us, who's come out and watched us wrestle, and we're going to continue to work really hard to keep everybody engaged and put a product out on the wrestling mat that our fans can be proud of.
Good product, of course, of the weekend. Of course, Brent Moore was the OW, beating two-time All-American Kevin Jack, a number of champs here with the Hokie program. Of course, as we lead into that, I want to do a little side tangent before we get into full discussion about the ACC Championships. Hokie fans, I've got that preview guide that comes out the March 13th, the Tuesday before Nationals. Special discount for Hokie fans and listeners of this program. If you go to mattalkonline.com/fanguide18, and when you check out, use the promo code Hokie, it'll save you $5. It's that digital preview guide that's like over 200 and some pages, everything I'll be reading off at Nationals. And the guys at ESPN and the Mat Side people, I put this together for them, and it's also something that the fans can get. You take your tablets in there, you get to scroll right through everything quickly. Hey, man, who's this guy from Utah Valley? Boom, boom, boom. There's all his results right there. So mattalkonline.com/fanguide18. Use that offer code Hokie. Save yourself $5. And by the way, that discount goes away for everybody on March 13th. So when that thing goes live, you want to act now, and you want to get your $5 off, or else that thing is retail because it's worth every penny. And I put a lot of work into it. Now, that sales pitch over, back to the ACCs. Let's just start out with where our champions were, 133 pounds, Dennis Gustafson, beating a returning All-American, Jack Mueller. This is a Commonwealth Clash type of thing, a little grudge match type of action. And Gus coming out with a really sound victory and a sound championship.
Yeah, I've been talking pretty highly about Dennis Gustafson here for the last several months, and just happy for Dennis, the way he was able to wrestle at the ACC Championships. I think a lot of Hokie fans know Dennis's story. He won a ACC title the last time the ACC Championships were here in Blacksburg, which seems like a long, long time ago, but it was a true freshman, and he kind of came out of nowhere, won the ACCs, and in the past 2 years, his results weren't nearly, what he thought he was capable of, and probably what we thought he was capable of. So he's really put together a consistent year, and his focus, and that's a big thing and a big word for Dennis, has been really, really good. And not only away from the wrestling mat and away from practice, but while he's been competing, and that's, I think, the key component for Dennis is to really make sure that he's got laser beam focus when he steps on the mat for those 7-8 minutes or whatever it may take for him to get his hand raised. So had a great tournament. I mean, knocked off Tyreek Wilson in the semifinals from NC State, which was obviously a huge head-to-head win, putting us into those semifinal matches are humongous just in terms of the point difference. For anybody who follows the tournament, you get 10 placing points for first, 7 placing points for second, 4 for third, and then 2 for fourth. So for us to be able to advance to the finals there and then knock him into the consolations was a big point swing, and went a long way towards helping us secure the title. But had a nice win where he got put on his back early and had to fight off, and then came back and just kept wrestling and kept maintained his intensity, maintained his focus, was able to get a hard-fought W there. And then in the finals against Mueller, who, ironically beat Joey Dance last year in the quarterfinals of the NCAA tournament, returning All-American, a guy that's, been on the national scene, is very highly regarded. And again, I thought he out-wrestled Mueller most of the match. He got in one position where he was getting ready to score a takedown, and the guy stepped over him as he went behind him, took him to his back for, I believe, 2 back points. So it was a 6-point swing, went from us scoring the takedown to him getting 2 and 2. But, Dennis, in kind of his typical fashion, continued to wrestle, continued to be aggressive, wrestled smart, and was able to secure a takedown and take Mueller to his back and hold him there right at the end to get the win. So huge win for Dennis. I think it creates a lot of momentum for him going into his last NCAA championships, and he's got a heck of a lot of urgency and a heck of a lot of confidence right now. Love the way he's wrestling, and excited to watch him here in what is it, 8 days.
Yeah, something like that, depending on when you're listening to the program as we record on March the 7th. Of course, that weight class nationally, you set yourself up for a pretty good seed here when the brackets come out. They will come out on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. So if for some reason I get this show out before then, which would be setting some pretty good records for production value, but we do things for that for you, Tony Robie. But, sitting where he's at, where do you think, where would you like to see him in the bracket?
I think he deserves a seed. To be quite honest, I'm not a guy that studies the brackets, studies the rankings. The one thing I know is going to happen at the NCAA tournament is there's going to be a lot of upsets. I don't know who's going to get upset. I don't know where, but you can't really control that aspect of it, So it's to me, I've got other more important things to worry about as opposed to where a guy's going to get seeded. We have no control over that. I think Dennis has put himself in a position with some really good quality wins over the course of the season. I mean, if you look at his schedule and his RPI, a lot of really, really highly ranked guys. He's lost some and he's won a lot of them too. So I would be shocked if Dennis does not get seated somewhere in the bracket. But obviously, the higher the better. And we just got to take him one match at a time. It doesn't really, you don't have to wrestle every guy in the bracket. You just have to wrestle the next guy, and that's going to be our approach. And that's how we're kind of going into this thing.
Brent Moore picks up the sudden victory takedown over Kevin Jack, two-time All-American, a guy that's kind of given everybody fits over the years. Breakthrough win for Brent. What are you expecting here? And what was the difference in that match?
Well, I guess first off, let's give Brent Moore a heck of a lot of credit. He was tech-falled just 2 weeks ago by Kevin Jack. So from a mentality or a mental standpoint, to be able to come back and wrestle the same guy, I think it's 15 days later, and go out there and not only win, but believe you're going to win, first of all. And that's where it started. I think Brent went out there with the belief that he was going to win that match. And, he put himself in position. I think he learned a lot from the first match, just in terms of where he needed to stay away from with Kevin Jack. And I do think Kevin Jack is one of those guys, you have to feel him one time. He's got a pretty unique style. And if you can stay away from where he's good, you can put yourself in position to win the match. And that's exactly what Brent did. He was able to fend off the majority of Jack's leg attacks and get to a front headlock where Brent is really good, probably his best position. But I thought, more than anything, I think it started with his preparation for the weekend, his discipline, and his focus, and just making sure his weight was in a good place all week. He was feeling good because he was doing all the right things away from the wrestling room. And for Brent, that's critical that we continue that trend going into the NCAA tournaments, because I do believe when Brent feels good when he steps out there, he's a very competitive guy. And he's also a guy that performs his best when the lights are on and on the biggest stage. He does not shy away from that. And if you watch his interviews and if you know anything about Brent Moore, I think you would agree with me at that. So I'm excited to watch him in Cleveland. He's a freshman. I don't know that he's going to get seeded. If he does, it's going to be a low seed. So we're just going to have to go out there with the same exact mentality that he had, in Chapel Hill on Saturday night. But huge turnaround from the match, and that's a testament to Brent and his belief in himself.
Did you kind of see it coming after he came off the match with a major decision over AC Headley in the semis?
I thought he wrestled really well against Headley. I think in the dual meet, we won that match by an eyelash. We were winning, and Headley scored a takedown, and we challenged it, and they ended up giving us an escape right at the end, and we were on the brink of losing that match, to be quite honest. So, but again, I think it was a situation where Brent felt good. When he feels good and he's strong physically, he's a handful. So, I knew he was wrestling really well, but I can't sit here and say that when you're going through the box score, so to speak, for the finals and trying to figure out where the points are going to distribute themselves, that we were counting on a win right there. So that was huge for the team and for Brent.
Moving on to 149 pounds, Ryan Blease finishes second, dropping one to highly ranked Troy Heilman. And just the difference of wrestler him at this weight class is kind of evident to everybody that follows the program. But another close one, low scoring. Ryan Blease has come out on top of a lot of these low scoring, tight matches over the course of the season since moving down to weight. And what are you expecting from him as we head into the tournament?
Well, I thought he wrestled well at the ACCs. Again, we had a matchup in the semifinals against NC State, and he had lost that match in the dual meet, and contributed us to losing. So turning that match around, I think, was huge. And he went out and wrestled pretty well, and it was relatively close. But I had a lot of confidence in Ryan. I just, I know his preparation is as good as anybody's. He lost a tough one in the finals for sure. I feel like he's definitely good enough to win that match, and I feel like Ryan's good enough to beat anybody. I mean, he's got a huge gas tank. His will is incredibly strong. Like you mentioned, at 149, physically, he just competes a lot better. He's not at 157. He didn't have the horsepower to wrestle with a lot of those guys, and I think the lack of horsepower really hurt him, and I think that's the difference between 149 and 157 for him. So, like I said, I mean, I love sitting down in that guy's corner. You're going to get his best effort every time he steps out on the mat, win or lose. And that kind of wrestling and that kind of approach where you go out and you're aggressive and you try to take the win, to me, is effective at the NCAA tournament, because it's very difficult to go out there and win back-to-back-to-back matches, which is what you're going to have to do to get on the podium at some point in the tournament. At the NCAAs, if you don't have that approach, if you go out and you try to be defensive and you're not aggressive and you're not the guy going out and you're not attacking. So I love Ryan Bleese's style. He's going to be, he's going to be a bad draw for somebody. I can promise you that.
David McFadden stays undefeated, 31-0 on the year, wins another ACC championship rather impressively over one of the quartet of Fine Silvers, who coincidentally all are going to the show. First time in NCAA history, 4 brothers on one team. But this is not a Duke show. This is a David McFadden show. 31-0, undefeated going in. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? When you look at the way the college wrestling season is. I mean, sometimes it's good to take a loss so you know where you're at, and sometimes you're just firing on all cylinders and you don't have opportunities to take them. So where's David right now in terms of where he's at and what he's ready to do come Cleveland?
I think the ACC Championships was as good as we've seen David McFadden wrestle all year. Maybe Vegas was similar. Maybe it's a tie in terms of how he wrestled out in Las Vegas in December. But, he wasn't even challenged. He had Pitt in the semifinals and had a relatively close match in the dual meet with Pitt. He beat Fine Silver, I think, 6-5 in the dual meet, and just absolutely destroyed him in the finals. I mean, it got to the point where it was almost like David was drilling out there. He was scoring so many takedowns. So love where he's at mentally. And in terms of him going in undefeated, I don't think it matters. We don't talk about that. We don't think about that. It's not, we're looking forward to the next match, and we're focusing on our effort, and we're focusing on our preparation, and we're focusing on how we compete and our mindset when we step out there. And what's happened in the past, whether it's been good or bad, shouldn't affect that. And I think David has that mindset. I mean, he's had success at every single level of wrestling on the national scale. So he knows how to compete. And I think he's a lot, like I mentioned with Brent Moore, I think he does his best wrestling when it's the most important. He just kind of has that confidence and swagger about him. So feel good about it. Obviously a stacked weight class with 3-time finalist, 2-time champ in there, another defending NCAA champion, and all kinds of really good guys. But I think if David's preparation it continues to be good and his focus is really good, I'll put him out there against anybody and feel really good about it. So excited to watch that. I think it's going to be, that bracket is going to be really entertaining to watch how it unfolds.
Is it maybe an advantage that everybody's focusing on all the guys out of the Big Ten, where it's all, I'm Archenzo, Massa, Marinelli, there's a lot of the talk about how crazy the Big Ten was, and there's David McFadden just sitting there. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't think it's a negative. Let's put it that way, that they're not talking about David and they're not talking about Virginia Tech. I mean, they really haven't all year long. So, like I said, but I our philosophy is we really talk to our guys and preach to our guys about not getting caught up in rankings and seedings and social media and what everybody's saying, what everybody's talking, because it doesn't really matter when you step out on the mat. All that matters is our belief in ourselves and our preparation and knowing that we're, that we've done everything we can and we're prepared and we have the right mindset, and we step out there and we're focusing on giving great effort. So, I know it's cliche, but we really try to do a good job, and I think our guys have bought into that in terms of not putting too much stock into that, and I think that helps alleviate pressure, to be honest with you.
Moving to 174 pounds, Hunter Boland, true freshman, kind of took some lumps early in the season, ended up finishing the ACC runner-up, losing to Ethan Ramos, a match he had won earlier in the year, but the leaps that he's made throughout the course of the season, pretty strong finish, even though he didn't come out on the winning end. Going to the show as a true freshman, that's, is that what you expected at the start of the season compared to where you're at now? I guess that's the comparison. What did you expect, and what did you end up getting out of Hunter Boland throughout the course of the regular season?
I knew the one thing I knew about Hunter Bolin because he's a Christiansburg guy and he'd been training over in our club and with the Southeast Regional Training Center throughout the course of his high school career is that he is gritty and he's tough and he wrestles hard and his work ethic is awesome. So when you have those characteristics, typically you're going to get better as the season goes along. So, didn't quite know what to expect. I thought we saw in Vegas, I thought he wrestled well. I mean, he was very close to place and lost to some good guys. Even if you look at some of his losses, he's got a loss to Bo Jordan, a loss to Lewis. He's got a lot in, wrestled those guys relatively close. So, for Hunter, he just kept plugging away, and I think something clicked about halfway through the season after the Virginia duels. He's been spending a lot of time with Coach Freyer, so I give Coach Freyer a lot of credit for Hunter's development and just continue to improve. And I still think he's at the tip of the iceberg. I think Hunter is going to be a guy that's going to be scary here in a couple of years with the way that he trains and the way that he works and just I think with his upside. So again, I think going into the NCAA tournament, he is a bad draw for somebody. He's just not a guy that you want to face early in the tournament. And if he wrestles well, and I think if he catches a couple breaks, he's going to be right in the mix to be wrestling on Saturday. He's that good, and he's going to compete, and that's what this event is about. It's about guys that are competitors and guys that have a strong will to get their hand raised because it's not going to be easy. There's going to be situations and matches that are difficult, and you're going to have to find a way to get through it, and that's about grit, and that's about toughness, and it's about your will, and Hunter checks all those boxes for sure. But as far as the ACCs were concerned, I thought he wrestled pretty good. Ramos is darn tough, and where there was a situation where we got called for an illegal head scissors when he was Winn-Dixieing him over to his back, and it was potentially a 7-point swing in the match. So I'm not sure if it was the right call or not, but he's right there. He's right there with a lot of the best guys in the country. So it'll be interesting to see how he rolls in Cleveland.
Loving how that Winn-Dixie's starting to become something that you see a little more often. It's not just once in a blue moon. I mean, growing up down south, I'd see them all the time, but they weren't on wrestling mats.
That's true. Yeah, you probably spent a lot of time there in your youth, right?
No, I was more of a pig. I was more of a Food Lion Farm Fresh guy, not so much on the Winn-Dixie Piggly Wigglies. But as we move forward, Zach Zavatsky, Pete Renda, they met for, what is it, the fifth time they've met, or is it 4 or 5? I've lost count, but
5.
Pete Renda getting the 4-0 decision here this time as the 2 seed, avenging his loss. And what do you see from Zach Zavatsky that you need to maybe adjust, or was that something that Pete Renda came prepared?
Yeah, I think those guys, you got 2 really good guys out there. And I think Renda probably made some adjustments from his loss in the dual meet that helped him. And I think with Zach, if we can't spend 3 minutes of the match underneath somebody, so that's where he needs to make his adjustment. I think even if he gives up a takedown, as long as we can get a quick escape and bring the match back to our feet, I feel good about our chances. We just spent way too much time in the bottom position. Renda gets a leg in on you. He's an incredibly strong guy. He's very good from that position, and we just spent way too much time in that position. So I think the thing about Zach, he's a very intelligent guy, a very intelligent wrestler. His wrestling IQ is very good. So, I'm confident that he's going to make that adjustment. And, who knows? This may be a blessing in disguise going into the NCAA tournament for him, just, so we can kind of hopefully get better in that position, because it's definitely probably a weakness for him. If he does have one weakness is the bottom position. So he needs to, kind of look at that, evaluate that, and, improve on that here in the next week or so to make sure that we're, that doesn't happen to us again.
197 pounds, Jared Haught with another marathon knockdown, drag out. Not a whole lot of offense type of battle with Michael Macchiavello ends up picking up a championship. And these 2 guys are just sluggers. They, when watching these guys, I don't know how anybody would want to even work out with these guys after seeing the way they wrestle with one another. Pick up the victory. Going into his 4th NCAA championship chance to become a 3-time All-American. And what's the coaching plan with Haught, and what was the strategy for that bout?
Well, First off, I'll say this much. For a match with no takedowns, it was about as exciting as it can possibly get. Jared went out there and was, probably shot himself out of gas maybe a little bit. I mean, he was all over him, I felt like, through regulation and even through the early part of the overtime period, and got to Machiavelli's legs several times. Just, that's a big, strong guy, and he's hard to finish on, and that's where we need to make that adjustment. I mean, I think we got his leg 3 times. Felt like once it was, if there was a little more time left in the period, we could have finished it, but felt like we controlled most of the wrestling and never felt that threatened during the match. And, Jared is just so darn hard to, number one, it's hard to get to his legs, and then if you do, he's incredibly difficult to score on. But that match came down to just what I was talking about with Hunter Boland. To me, it just came down to Jared's will and his toughness and his grit and his determination. He was exhausted. It was, I don't know, 11 minutes of wrestling, 10 plus minutes of wrestling, whatever it was. And you had 2 guys out there that were really throwing blows. And credit to NC State there. That guy's, he's a tough competitor. So it was a great match to watch. Glad Jared came out on top of it. It was. Wouldn't have, we would have won the championship regardless, but wouldn't have felt nearly as good about winning it as a team if we wouldn't have got our hand raised there, 197. But Jared, he's in a really good place right now going into the NCAA tournament. Just feel good about his approach and his mindset and his belief in himself right now. So I think we're going to see really good things from Jared Hott here in Cleveland. I'm truly excited to watch him. I think he's going to be wrestling Saturday night and feel really good about his chances.
Ended up with 9. Andrew Dunn slipped through, and then Kyle Nordstrom gets the at-large bid. That leaves one weight class that didn't get qualified, and that was one where a lot of people were talking about was it going to be Solomon Shishko, was it going to be BC LaPrade, and just briefly, what was the decision there, and what went into it, and how is the program going to work on this from the future for that weight class?
Well, first off, I'm excited for Kyle Nordstrom and Andrew Dunn, who did not wrestle up to their ability at the ACC tournament, but they have another opportunity to get to the NCAA championships and compete there. And I told Andrew Dunn after his match, I mean, we're not just going to this thing and going to be happy being there. We're going to go there to compete. So that's what the expectation is for both him and Kyle. Obviously, they're freshmen and they've got their work cut out for them, but that's kind of what we're looking for. As far as 157 is concerned, BC LaPrade had kind of established himself as our guy at 157, and Solomon, was out of the lineup there for a period of time during the course of the season, and then BC was injured, and Solomon got an opportunity to get back in there and obviously struggled a little bit, but we did wrestle those guys off, and we did a best 2 or 3 scenario, and BC won both matches. I think he scored 3 takedowns in the 2 matches, and Solomon didn't score any, so made it a pretty easy decision for us. BC didn't wrestle the way he's capable of wrestling. I think for sure. I think we're going to see a much improved and a very motivated BC LaPrade here in the off season. He's already in here working with coaches and wrestling incredibly hard, and he doesn't feel good about it. I can tell you that much. BC is a competitive guy, and he's going to make some significant improvements. As far as Solomon's concerned, I guess we'll wait and see and kind of make some judgments on that in the future here in terms of what's going on 157. But I feel like between Solomon, Ryan Blease, and BC LaPrade, that we're going to have those 2 weight classes covered and feel good about who's going to step on the mat for us at 149 and 157 next year. All 3 of those guys are incredibly capable of getting the job done for us, and I think you're just going to see continued improvement from all 3 of them.
If you had any hair left, would you have been pulling it out with the situation when the Dunn-Ryan Solomon match? Just take us, for those that didn't see it, explain the situation and why things were called the way they were.
Well, first off, I wasn't Matt's side. I was upstairs helping a couple of our guys get warmed up. But for the semifinals, basically, Solomon went out and he was controlling the match and took Andrew Dunn and turned him a bunch of times. So I think Andrew was in a little bit of desperation mode, and Solomon shot in and Andrew hit him with the what do we call that? The gator bacon gator. Is that what's that called?
Wait, he went gator bacon, huh? Okay.
He went gator bacon on him, rolled him through right on the edge of the mat for two. Solomon, unfortunately, at the ACC Championships, the apron of the mat, as they call it, was 5 feet, which is allowable within the NCAA rules, but really for guys that size and really for anybody, it's very easy to get off the mat. You see it happen all the time when, with the new edge rules and the wrestling to the out of bounds, and guys will just put their foot on the hardwood to stop the action. And Solomon didn't try to do that, but when he landed, his feet landed on the basketball court floor, and as soon as that happens, the action is done. So, despite getting the fall, they overturned it because they did go out of bounds. And to be quite honest, that's what the rule is, and that's exactly what happened. It was unfortunate. Would have been nice for Andrew. It would have been nice for a lot of reasons, but it would have advanced Andrew to the semifinals. Would have been 3 more team points for us, 1 for the advancement, and then 2 for the pin as well.
As we move forward, what are some things that we're going to expect to see from Hokie Nation in Cleveland? I know that there's a collection of people gathering, socials, things of that nature. Oh, if there's anything planned right now, what do you know and what can you tell us? And then if you don't have anything right now, where can they look to keep an eye out for the gatherings in Cleveland?
We're going to have a social on Friday evening and then one again on Saturday. We will get that information out through email, through social media. I think most of our fans that are going to the NCAAs with us are on our VT Wrestling Insider email list. If you're not, make sure you sign up. You can do so at southeastrtc.com or follow VT or Hokie Wrestling, I think it is now, is the Twitter handle, on Twitter and on Facebook, and that's how we'll get all that information out. But it'll be similar to what we've done years in the past, and we've got another great contingent of Hokies traveling to Cleveland with us this year. Unfortunately, we didn't get, and much like most schools, that we didn't get the tickets that we requested. We requested, I think, 560, and we got 364. So tickets were limited, and we had to turn a lot of people away, which we hate to do. But excited to travel to Cleveland. Excited about our fans that are coming. If you are coming to to Cleveland and you haven't signed up for your Spirit package yet, you can shoot me an email at troby@vt.edu, and I can put you in touch with the right people. The Spirit package includes our T-shirt package. You get 3 T-shirts, 1 for each day of the NCAA tournament. We want all the Hokie fans wearing the same colors. And then also it gets you into our 2 socials. So excited just to see everybody, excited to see our guys wrestle, more importantly, and hopefully celebrate on Saturday.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, hashtag wrestling shirt a day. I'm just going to throw that out there. But as we've got that planned on, realistic goals and expectations for Hokie wrestling as we come to the national championship. There's a trophy in that trophy case. You know it can be done. And what are you going to tell these guys? What are you and Coach Freyer and Coach Molinaro, Coach Wall's going to say and train these guys for the next 8 days as they head for, March is what matters, is what everybody always says.
Yeah, I think from a training standpoint, we're not going to change a lot. I think we've done a really good job, and a huge credit and I guess shout out to our assistant coaches, Frank Molinaro, Jared Freyer, Ty Walls, Tyler Graff, in getting, that's really, I don't do nearly as much of that now as I did as an assistant coach. Those guys have done a great job getting our guys prepared, helping our guys develop. Everybody knows we had a young team this year, so development throughout the course of the season is a huge part of what we do. And working with guys individually, teaching during practice, structuring our practices, and training not only hard but training smart and developing these guys not only physically but mentally and developing their mindset. And I feel great about what we've been able to accomplish this year in those areas, and excited about the future, just because I know that the staff that we have in place right now currently, the structure and the system that we have in place, and the buy-in that we have in place from our athletes is really, really good, and is something that as a head coach I'm tremendously excited about. So like I said, a credit to those guys for putting us in this position. helping us win another ACC title. But our goals and our approach and our mindset doesn't change just because the opponent changes, the magnitude of it changes. We've got high goals, as a program. We always want to get trophies whenever we're competing, so that's always one of our goals. Obviously, we're going to have to wrestle extremely well for that to happen. For me personally, we've set a goal to have. Virginia Tech's never had a national champion, so to get at least one national champion is a goal for us as well. So, but again, we're not so much focused on those things as we are just going out and giving incredible effort, just being excited about the opportunity that we have to compete for ourselves, for Virginia Tech, for this university, for the coaching staff, the athletic department. I think our guys really understand that, and I think it has helped their performance just in terms of being grateful for the opportunity that they have. I mean, they go to one of the best schools in the country, in my opinion, the greatest place in the United States to go to school. This is a fantastic place. Everybody knows that has been to Virginia Tech. So our guys don't take that for granted. So that's a big deal. So I think just the excitement level is high, and I think we're going to be prepared, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Tony Robie wrapping things up as we head to Cleveland. Again, keep an eye on those emails from Hokie Wrestling, and keep an eye out for the Mat Talk preview guide, mattalkonline.com/fanguide18. Use that offer code Hokie, right, Tony? You tell them to use the promo code Hokie.
I encourage everybody to go out and take advantage.
All right, I don't need you to do the full sales bit.
Jason Bryan is as good as it gets. He truly is. So no, but I'm serious. I encourage everybody to do it. It'll be well worth it. Use the promo code. Jason does a lot for our program. Become good friends here over the last several years, and he supports the Hokies, so we got to support him, right? And it's a great product to have too.
Those are words I like to hear. So we will see Hokie Nation in Cleveland the week after I go to Cleveland, and then get to fly back and go to Cleveland again. So Hokie Nation, if you see me out and about, come say hi. I love to talk wrestling, but I can't talk so much, but I can talk enough. But Coach Robie, good luck down the stretch.
Thanks, Jason. Good speaking with you.
Hokie fans, listen to Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling anywhere you go by subscribing on Apple Podcasts. Go to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com/iTunes, or you can get the exclusive Android or iOS apps by going to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com.
This show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.